Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me. It's Etcetera Live on the Vibe. I'm your host, Kelly Barrett, and we've got a guest today that I've been so excited about for so long, and I know you guys all have too. She has been rocking our world for more than 35 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the queen of scream herself, Darby Mills. Hey, Darby.
Hey, hi, Kelly. How are you?
How you doing, sister?
I'm doing okay. Hanging on. It's really smoky here in the Okanagan, and I'm really tired of being locked in my house. But what do
And
you
you had a
do?
little bit of, and you had a little bit of drama this morning before the show, Darby.
Just minutes ago, as a matter of fact, yes, I woke up to a chirp chirp, thinking my dog's making awfully weird sounds this morning. He's had an operation yesterday, and he's wearing a cone, and it scrapes on the wall and makes weird sounds. But it chirp. It's like, that was weird. And then I heard it again. And then I went downstairs to get a tripod to set my phone up for this. And a bird flew up by my face. And it was like, oh my God, I got half an hour and there's a bird in the house. So yeah, we did manage to catch it without, I think, giving it a heart attack. I'm sure it was freaking out, or me for that matter. And it is now out free, thank goodness. And yeah, wow. Yeah.
Kids ago, the bird's off to bird therapy probably at this
Yeah,
moment.
I know, right?
But I'm glad that all worked out for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, so we have so much to talk about today, Darby. Personally, I always kind of like to go back to the beginning because I think, we often think of people that have reached the level of success that you have that have just always been there, and we forget that it's a long road and a lot of hard work to get to the success that you enjoy today. And so I wonder if you wouldn't mind taking us back to, I know you were in school when you first got interested in music.
Uh,
I
I
get it.
was well, actually, my dad was a singer. And as well as a hockey player. He had been drafted by the Red Wings. He never did make it there. He had a concussion at one of their rehearsals, at one of their practices, and ended up being locked out of hockey because of his concussion. This is back when they didn't have helmets. But I used to listen to him sing when I was very young, and it would be on a lake, Mabel Lake, which is on fire right now. Of course, my family has had a cabin out there for 70 some years, and we're just hoping we don't lose it. But he would sing, and you'd hear the applause coming from the campfires on the other side of the lake, and people
Oh
would just go
wow.
woo and applaud, and it was like, wow, how cool is that? People like that. So it was embedded in me from a very young age that the applause was something that really was a cool thing. So I always thought I'd be an actor. Actually, I thought that's the path I would take, but ended up singing at my high school grad and forming a band. Singing "Crazy on You" by heart was the first song I sang on stage, and graduated shortly after and moved to Calgary and joined my first band there, my second band. Had a band in my parents' basement for about a year and a half, and yeah, so 16, 17 is kind of when the stage bug bit,
Bit.
and yeah, I've been
I,
paying the price ever since. Yeah.
I was reading about the story of you joining your high school band, and I like that you almost kind of smart-assed your way into that band by
Yeah.
making a bit of a comment about how a man can't sing heart, and then he basically
Yes.
said, well, give it a go then, and you did.
Yes, the lyrics were on the album cover, and he threw it at me, going, "You think you can do a better job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I can do a better job." And lo and behold, they took me to their next show, which was in 100 Mile House, which is on fire right now, basically. And yeah, that was it. I got up on stage, and I was just, this is definitely where I wanna go. Yeah.
And so did you have that, like the voice that you have today, did you have that always, or is that something that you had to sort of hone over the years? Did you have the Queen of Scream voice even early on?
Just so you know, I did not tag myself with that label. Someone else did.
I'm
So
sure it was someone else. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I figured
um, yeah. You know what? I think I kind of did, because that band that was in my parents' basement, 3, 4 months into learning, we were doing Journey songs. Wheel in the Sky. I remember doing that, and so the other commercial songs that were happening at the time. And one rehearsal, the guitar player brought the Pearl album to me, and he said, listen to this, you sound a lot like her. So, and of course that's Janice. And it was like, okay, you want me to sound more. So I kind of measured myself after her, but there must have been some growl in there for them to go there. I'm assuming. I can't remember that far back. I knew I had a tape or two, or my parents had a tape or two from that band. And
But you weren't really
strangely
sure who
enough,
she was, right? Is that true? You weren't actually really even sure who she was, even while you're being compared to her?
no, the Pearl album had just come out, so I don't have my dates together, but I think she was she already gone at that point? I can't remember. That would have been 1975, 76.
Yeah, you would have been too young. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she died right in there. But I do remember waking up one day to my parents listening to Cher singing "Wheel in the Sky," the Journey song, and I'm like, what? Cher singing Journey? That's really odd. The song ended, and I said, thank you very much. That'll be the end of the night. And it's like, so it's like, I sounded like Cher, not so much Janice, but Cher. So, and Cher's been a kindred spirit of mine for I grew up watching Sonny and Cher and thinking she was just fabulous. So yeah, kudos to all the great women of the past and still present that heaven help me if I can go till 78 like Cher's done. I'm not counting on it, but wouldn't that be crazy?
Oh, it's amazing. And I want to talk about the documentary, and we'll jump forward to that in a little bit, but I love that, the climate today is such that, it doesn't mean anymore that we're a certain age and that's it. And I've been talking about that a lot with some guests that have been on the show recently who are of a certain age. And,
Yeah.
I love in the documentary, because I watched the documentary last night, and I watched it really late, and then I couldn't shut my brain off. The documentary that was filmed for TELUS, and I loved it. And you mentioned in there, here I am embarking on this new career at age 57. And I thought, what a great message. What a fantastic message for anyone, but, specifically women, to see that it's, the second act can be as amazing as the first.
Well, here's hoping. I don't have, especially with a year off. This was such a terrible time to have to take a year, 2 years basically off. We've done one show in the past 2 years at this point. And this poor old thing has really been put through the ringer. And the one thing that keeps it in shape is by continuing to sing. So taking a year and a half off, even though in that year and a half, basically twice a month, if not more, depending on lockdowns, I have a local project that I started up at the, I think September of 2019, called Press Play with, I'm the least qualified member in the band. It's 3 musicians and myself. Dennis Marsenko's in the band, Aaron Anderson, and John Trikiel. Sorry, John, if I pronounce your last name right or wrong.
John T.
Yeah, John T. And it's just songs from my youth, like songs that my brothers and sisters listened to. We came from a small town, Vernon, actually, and radio was AM. There was no FM here. Right. So it was, definitely the whitest of, pardon my language, of songs, but still great songs from my early years, like Spooky and Stormy, and some Cher tunes from back then. And so we've got 40 songs in the bag right now, and we've been waiting to get together to be able to take this live. And every time we get close, there's another lockdown, right? So we've got some shows locally. It's not a travel band. It was just something that would keep all of us, because we're all basically traveling musicians when we can. And it was like, for classic rockers, my genre of act, our amount of shows that we do a year has greatly diminished over the past 20 years. And there's just a handful left of classic rock festivals. And as you well know, I'm sure we're losing more and more classic rockers every year, every month. So, and we're losing more and more of that era of the ticket buyer. So now the shows are the 90s, not the 80s, the 90s and newer, right? So we're all kind of fighting and holding on to those last few gigs, at least here in Canada. Yeah, it's if this thing can't do those leather notes, if I can't leather up my throat, which I'm working, I'm now singing those songs, trying to do it every day, trying to turn my poor old larynx back into a strip of leather so that I can do those shows, those 90-minute shows with those songs that are at the peak of my range. Then at least I do have a wonderful group that I can fall back on and hopefully sing up to the point where I'm 75, 80 years old, should anybody care to see me try to sing at 75 and 80 years old. You know, here's hoping.
I think we're all going to wait for that, Darby. We're getting some comments here. Mark Alex Atkins says he's loving his stories. Sean Tiedemann says, hello, Darby. Hey, Sean, what's up? You know, I remember the first time I saw you, Darby, it was in Regina, and I was aspiring to the whole music. This is what I wanted to do. And I remember I saw you at the Center of the Arts, which was this huge, massive stadium. And I'm pretty sure you opened up with Turn It Loud. And you came out and you had this little wrestling bodysuit thing on, like as we were in the 80s. And you stepped out and you hit that money note for the first line of Turn It Loud. And my mind was freaking blown. I was just so lit, and you were definitely a mentor as I went on to spend 23 years hacking it out on the road. But and so that voice, is that something you had to develop, or was that, and I kind of touched on this already, is that something you had to work, like aspire to and then work towards, or is that just your natural voice from the get-go?
I'm sure I worked at it, you know. Too Loud was a man with a whip, for sure. And we'd go into the studio with one or two songs in the bag, and the rest of the songs were written at the time. So it was experimenting throughout the whole recording process. And sometimes the vocal tracks would take 10 hours to get because we weren't sure the melody, or I wasn't hitting those notes there. So it was, yeah, it was a frickin' do it, woman or girl at the time, 21, going, oh my God. Yeah, it was a strenuous but a wonderful time to learn my craft at that age, because I was, you know, pretty young, dumb, and full of whatever, Uncle Dirty. I won't repeat the rest of the
Use your imagination.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was pushed really hard to do that stuff, and it definitely gave me an identity that today I have to live up to. Although I'm becoming, as I mentioned, more and more aware of the fact that you can't, at some point, you just can't do those things anymore. And with the opportunity to work as little as my genre gets to work, it's hard to keep that strength going. So I'm doing the best I can, and that's all I can ask of my poor throat at this point in time. And it's 100%. Just a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be out singing still, and having a great bunch of guys supporting me in both projects that I've got going on right now.
That's awesome, Darby. And you know, the thing with your voice and the songs that you were singing, particularly back with the Headpins, is that it's not like there's the odd money note in the odd song. They're all money notes, every song, you know, through the whole way through. So I can only imagine that really takes its toll on your voice, and you know, that's work. And
well,
you know, when you look back to that lineup, like what a lineup. I mean, Ab Bryant and Bernie Aubin, and you know, like you guys were destined for something great. And was there ever a time when things really started to take off with the Headpins where you were overwhelmed, like when you just thought, wow, this is so bizarre, or was it just wonderful?
You know, there really wasn't much time to think about it. It all happened in actuality in 4 years. We were together 5, or I was with the band for 5, the original project for 5 years. But those 3 albums came out of a 4-year time period, and there was no time to think. It was record, get out of the studio, tour, get back home, try to write, get into the studio, finish writing, get out the road and tour. It wasn't until after when in 1985 we finished the ZZ Top tour here in Canada, and McLeod and I were butting heads a fair amount back then, and that's when he decided he didn't want to work with me anymore, so he let me go. And that was 2 days after the ZZ Top tour ended that I got a call from our then manager. He called me in and he said, I got good news and bad news. And he actually asked for my husband to come in with me, so I knew something was up. Who was a co-manager of the Headpins until they found out that we were a pair. So they told him to hit the road. And anyway, so they said the bad news was that I was fired, and the good news was that I'd retained the record contract with MCA Los Angeles, and that next month I was going down to LA to start writing for a new album. Nice. So it was like, okay, wow, okay, because I was not the main writer with the Headpins. That was definitely McLeod. He graced me with being able to write some lyrics. I wrote about a third of the tunes for the Headpins, and the rest of the time he'd just come in and go, boom, sing this. So you know what, I was 21, 22, 23 at the time. I really didn't have a whole lot of choice. That was made very clear to me. You don't have a lot of choice. And so it was like, okay, now I'm a writer. Okay, so now the weight is on me. And that's when I think it all became really real, is now it rested on my shoulders. And I did get some stuff written. I went down to LA and lived in LA for a little bit, and came home with a handful of tunes, and they sent me over to England. I recorded at Ridge Farm Studio with Tony Levin playing bass.
Nice.
Greg Walsh was the producer. He was part of the Tina Turner Private Dancer album. So it was a huge event.
Company.
Really good company. Shorenge player from oh goodness, I can't remember now, but and a conga player from Santana, backup singer from Mike and the Mechanics. I mean, there was names popping in every day of the studio. I was just jaw dropped every day, right? Like a wow. But I came home for a month to get some more songs written, and at the time found out that the A&R man that had brought the Headpins in and then retained the contract for me had been fired, and the new A&R man decided that it was going to be between me and a young 16-year-old that he really found something in. So was he going to take and run with someone else's project or his own? And of course he ran with Tiffany.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm like, really?
Well, she did great, she did great. She sold more than I did. So obviously he didn't make the wrong decision. But so after that, I came home and to make the story even longer, ran into Lou Blair at an airport trip one day, and he said, you and Brian should really go and talk to Bruce Allen, who was my manager, ex-partner, or no longer partner, kind of partner, still partner, not partner. Anyway, so we made an appointment.
Darby, Brian being your husband,
Brian being my husband, yeah. At this point, no, McLeod was still with us. He didn't know he'd had cancer quite yet. But so I went in, we went in, and of course they made us sit for an hour to get in to see Bruce. It's like, I think we've done the wrong thing. I think this is a joke. I think they were trying to just play with our brains. Anyway, we got in there, and the first thing he says to me is like, what the hell was McLeod doing? I can't stand your voice the whole time at the top. Like, does it ever change? I'm like, okay. I'm like, why are we here? Or am I just here for you to insult me? But he did
Wow.
feed me some wonderful information
Dirty.
saying,
I would have said, you shut your dirty mouth.
yeah,
No, I'm
well,
kidding. That's horrible. That's horrible.
yeah, yeah. Well, and then he did say, I can't understand why you're not down auditioning for Van Halen right now, which was, I had been trying to get Sam to get me an audition with Van Halen for months when I found out that Patty was up for the gig, right? And he didn't see any reason to do it. And here's Bruce saying, if I handled you, you'd have been down there getting an audition. And he said, and did Sam ever tell you about Keith Emerson? And I'm like, no. He says, yeah, he was looking for you about a year ago. And I'm like,
Would have been good to
wow.
know.
Nope. So yeah, it's hit and miss, and what coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and so many chances that I'm sure not only me could have been wonderful things had they happened, but whatever. Here today, and still trying to do my thing.
And Darby, Turn It Loud sold over 600,000 albums.
It's
Um,
over a
you
million,
know,
I think, at this
over a
point.
million worldwide, and it remains one of the most successful debut albums ever in Canadian history. So you did all right, Darby. You're talking about missed opportunities, and I guess that's the thing. But you know what, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people still want to hear your music, and people, we're getting some great comments in here. People just, they love that you're here. Hey, Darby, it's Karen McKenzie. This is Dwayne Watson, good friend of mine. I saw your interview in 1982 on Channel 10 singing Breakdown. Ran to Sam the Record Man that day. I'd still see you if you're singing at 92. Great interview. Thank you for keeping yourself real.
It'll be the jazz version of Breaking Down. There you go. Or maybe
Right
the
on,
blues
yeah.
version.
Dwayne's
The
a great
blues
guy.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, Dwayne's an awesome guy, and Dwayne's a talented musician himself, by the way. And Steve
Hey,
Jensen says,
Dwayne.
"Hey, Dwayne, thanks for tuning in, my friend." Steve Jensen says, "I was in a band called Tomfoolery, and we would rehearse in that garage near the corner of Gilly and Imperial. I remember reading your lyrics for Turn It Loud. Just want to hear the bass drum proud. He. Nice stuff." Yeah, and so the Darby Mills project now is in the documentary is what you're referring to as kind of like the second act or your new career that you're starting. And so who are the players in that band, Darby?
Well, there's kind of been a turnover in the band. We started with 4 players back in 2016, and 2 players stepped away from the project, and we added 2 more. So we've got Doug Rasmussen, who's been with me from the beginning, and Chris Murray Driver is now with us. This is coming up to his 3rd year with us, and Dave Hopia is on bass. He's coming up to his 3rd year, and Randy Gable had been with us from the beginning, but he's made some choices and he's moving in a different path right now. So we have a new guitar player, which, with the exception of the Took interview I did a couple days ago, this is the announcement that we now have Brian Jasper playing guitar for us, and we're he's a little bit different than what we've had in the past, and it's like, what, maybe it's time to mix it up. Obviously it's time to mix it up because he's with us now, and he's come from a slightly different background, and we're all pumped to see where we can go. Change is inevitable. The things change every day, and staying the same is a dream for some, but it's just not realistic that you can stay the same.
You have to be adaptable. It's, certainly in this business and in the climate of the way things are, you definitely have to be adaptable. And I love that you just made that announcement on my show. I feel honored for that. I look forward to see what, and you have a show coming up with the Rock Talk, or with Took, pardon me, in Edmonton, I believe.
I'm sitting in with Took again. I had the pleasure of sitting in with them for my 60th birthday. It was a gift from my dear friend Liz, who flew me to Calgary on a whim and had connected with Took prior. I had sang backup on Don't I Make You Feel Like Dancing, their version of it on their latest release. And so she took it upon herself to call them up. She found out they were playing the Grey Cup tailgate party, and they said, by all means, bring her out. So she flew me out as a surprise, and there I was. Oh, okay, I guess I'm singing with Took today. So that was a blast. It was like 45 below zero. It was freezing, but it was wonderful. And they are so gracious to let me perform with them again at the Edmonton Rock Festival coming up here pretty quick. So yeah, that. And then the next day I'll be in Regina at a private party, and it's a private party, so can't say much about it, but
Right.
that's going to be interesting. And then home, and then back into rehearsal mode to get Brian ready for shows we've got coming up in Edmonton at the Pure Casino. And we have a show on the island coming up, and it looks like 2022 is shaping up pretty good right now. We might have as many as 5 shows already booked, so we're excited about that, and crossing our fingers that we don't have more lockdowns, and that COVID gives us all a break, and we can actually get on a plane and get off a plane and get into a venue and out of a venue and home
Yeah,
safely.
you got to be vaccinated to do that, though, and I don't think we'll go down that road. But yeah, I'm just grateful that that I thought we were going to lose another summer completely, and so just to be able to I got my tickets for Rock the River in Saskatoon, and it's going to be like Christmas when you're 5 years old, just so good to be out there again and have live music, but I'm really grateful I had this show during the whole COVID, because it really allowed me to connect with artists and bring them to the viewers, and hopefully, make people's lives a little less mundane on a Sunday when you're locked down.
Yes.
Darby, I was just kind of thinking, back to the touring days, and it was a really different time back then. And do you think it was, how do I put this? Do you think it was difficult being a woman, in a basically male dominated, especially with your genre of music? Did you ever feel like you were treated differently, or that you had to work that much harder? Even with the voice that you had, did you ever feel like you had to be that much more because you were a woman?
I basically just became one of the guys the best that I could, even though I was not anywhere near the drinker or partier that any of the boys were. I knew that if I couldn't sing, there would be hell to pay.
Right.
So I usually would go home to the hotel room after a show. I didn't tend to go out and hang at the clubs like the guys did. I don't know how they kept up the schedule I don't know how they did it, but I tried to be pretty good. I mean, I wasn't an angel by any means, but yeah, I picked up I picked up a trucker mouth, and I would stand my ground the best I could, and that's probably why I butted heads with people like I did, because I felt it was the only way that I wouldn't get stepped on any worse than I did. I mean, yeah, I paid the price for being a female, although I'm sure it could have been worse if I hadn't adapted that persona.
Right. And I think so often, Darby, and especially in this business, and I was in the business, not to your degree of success, obviously, but, for 23 years, and I never experienced this personally, but I think a lot of times, oftentimes if we're strong-minded and we're driven and we know what we want, we can get perceived that, the bitch word comes out, and we're difficult to work with and all that. And so I love that, through everything that you had been through, that we discussed, I love that you're just, you're making this comeback, and, you have the Flying Solo album, and you've got some cool projects on the go. And I just think good for you. I was watching that documentary, as I said last night. And by the way, guys, if you're watching, and all you fans out there, you're going to want to go to www.darbymills.com. And you can find Darby's last album, and the album, her music, merch, and this documentary, which you're going to want to watch. And the thing I loved about the documentary, Darby, is that I saw this whole vulnerable Darby Mills. There was this innate vulnerability to you during this documentary, as you spoke about, You did speak about your husband Brian getting the ultimatum. To choose the singer or and to make that choice. And it was really, I just loved seeing that side of you. You were just honest and truthful and vulnerable, and I what was the incentive behind doing that? Was it just you just wanted people to see a little bit of like Darby off the road, or
The truth of that is, in 2015, or the year before that, I can't remember. How sad is that? My mom had passed, after 4 years of basically looking after her and my dad being their basic caregiver. She had just got the all clear from the doctor saying, I don't want to see you twice a month anymore. 6 months, your next appointment, everything's good. You're back on your meds. Both mom and dad were in need of that kind of care. So we had just got the all clear. She had just had her whatever birthday, sorry, mom. And she had an aneurysm and passed, boom, like that. And it was so shocking. Didn't expect that. And then within 6 months, my husband had had a heart attack in our living room. I was gone. He called to say I'm not feeling well. I called an ambulance, racing home. By the time I got home, he was on the gurney, and basically they stopped in our driveway because he flatlined, and they broke 10 ribs with compression to bring him back to life. And I just started thinking, you know what? It's time to make some wise choices here. What really, I wasn't happy with what was going on at the head with the present head pins at the time, and it had been 26 some odd years doing what we were doing as who we were, and there was no change in sight, and I was feeling very much not a part of the project. I was feeling like a possession. And it was just, you know what, it's time because what if next year that's me? Or what if next year I don't have a husband and I can't leave home? What if, it just
it puts things
became
into
very
perspective,
real.
right?
A very, very new perspective of why am I going out on the road and hating it? This is supposed to be fun.
Right.
And so, yeah, I gave a year's notice, which ended up being 6 months. But and in that time, I was driving out of Vancouver every second weekend, auditioning and picked the players and started working on that. And yeah, it was just a real dose of reality. And what is it that you want to do with the time you have left? And life just became so precious. It was just what you were doing prior to that. And after those two events, it became very obvious that we're not living forever. And while I still have a voice, maybe it's time that I took the wheel and drove, or drive, which I've used that phrase many times now. It was sitting in the backseat bitching about what's going on wasn't getting me anywhere or getting me any respect. I was just being seen as the bitch. So yeah, it was time to grow up, and it was time to grow up and do what was needed to be done.
Right. And I agree with you, Darby. I think, certainly your experiences with, Brian coming so close to death and losing your mother, and then, unfortunately losing your father recently too. I think the COVID on top of everything really, really makes us aware of our own mortality.
Yeah.
And then really, I love when in the video, when you're golfing, and I love at the beginning when you're going through your photo albums, and it's like, oh, here we are with Kiss, and here we are, with all these amazing, but it's just Darby at home. And then when you're talking about, I'm starting a new career, a whole new phase of my life at 57. And I love that. And I love that spirit that you would want to get out there, and I just think it's so good for women, for anybody, for sure, but definitely for women to see that. I mean, I started this show in my 50s, and I'm just so grateful. It's a different time where we don't have to, I was joking with Christopher Ward about this, and it's like, it doesn't mean because we're 50 we got to grab a cardigan and start gardening, and that life comes to an end. And the fact that you're still out there kicking ass at 57 is when you started this new project. I think it's inspiring. So thank you for that.
62 in a couple months. So yeah.
You look amazing, darling. You look amazing.
And
really,
and just
really.
To finish my last thought, I kind of got off track a little bit. So within that time, I had already given my notice. I got a call from Melinda, who I'm looking for Darby Mills. I want to do a documentary for TELUS, and I'm like, well, nobody knows this yet, but I'm no longer with the Headpins. I'm just kind of fulfilling my contract with them, and I can put you in touch with the man. And she said, no, I want to do your story. I want to know what it was like to be a woman in this industry. And so I didn't wish this to happen. It came out of the blue, and the angels from somewhere sent this woman to me at such a perfect time, because at my age, walking away from my history, not taking the name. I didn't take the Headpin name. I didn't fight for the Headpin name because I knew a couple of the players in that band. That's all they had. And to fight for the name and take that away from them would have been just a messy, nasty, terrible thing. And I was hoping that the name Darby Mills would carry me through to at least the level that I've reached with the project. And Melinda coming along at that time really was a step up to introduce me in a new light. And I am truly grateful for whoever sent her to me, and to her for giving me that step, because I'm not sure how this would have worked without her. And Chuck from Canifest, who hired me that year to go on stage, and it's in part of the documentary, who gave me a large stage to show that I still have the ability to perform in such a capacity. I'm not just a bar band singer,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And and I can't say it enough, you look amazing in that, but you work hard at it. I know in the video you're at the gym, and I was watching it last night. I was like, oh, I should probably do that too. But I just think good for you. You're just out there, and can we see the tattoo?
Well, I got this one after walking
Letting
the
go.
plank.
If you can't see that at home, it says letting go.
It says letting go, because it was hard. I had to learn to let go, and it's still a process every day, learning to let go and accept what comes at me. And then my new one on my leg was my conehead puppy dog right now, who's hiding. Yeah, we thought we lost him about 2, maybe 3 months ago. He was not doing very well. He's got a collapsed trachea and arthritis, and he's 15 this year. And even though he's probably the most little shit dog I've had a dog every day of my life, and this little Yorkie is such a piece of work. But he loves. I can't touch his hair. Like, he's a rock star, because if you touch his hair on the top of his head, he literally, don't touch my hair, and he shakes. And I thought I've been wanting to get another tattoo for a long, long time, and I just don't want to get a tattoo. I want it to be the right tattoo. And
for sure.
And that day when we took him into the vet and realized all these issues were happening with him, I went, that's it. That's my new tattoo. I'm going to get Dobie tattooed on my leg, because I'm very attached to this little boy, and I will miss him dearly the day he decides to leave. So,
pets
are like, they're lifting up my leg. I don't know if I've shaved my leg for the last little while, but it's a really nice tattoo.
I love your candor. I love your honesty. I had a Yorkie for 14 years, and so I totally get it. And she was just the smartest and like a little shit too, kind of slightly high strung. But man, I tell you, that dog was my heart for sure. And so I saw that you had a Yorkie the other day, and I was going to ask Darby about the first tattoo, because of course that I learned about from the documentary. Guys, you have to check the documentary out. So letting go, and I was laying in bed last night because the documentary, like I said, really it just got me thinking about my own second act and my own life and my own past, and I ended up staying up really really late just thinking. But I was wondering with the tattoo, letting go, is it more like a sense of shedding one's skin? Like, was it a letting go, or was it in some ways a coming into, or a
It
bit
was
of both?
it was very much both. It was definitely letting go of the fear of walking away from my life. I was 21 when I joined the Headpins and 57 when I left.
Yeah.
With the
Wow.
exception of that 5 years in between when Brian and I weren't speaking, and he did in '98. We did reform the band with Ab, myself, and Brian, and we went out on the road, and it was quite a successful tour, and there was an American deal in the works. And I sat down in front of a contract that was twice as thick as the one I signed when I was 21, and I was awarded less privilege, less opportunity, and just less everything. And I just I just went. I'm on the verge of getting a solo deal already, which I did do to get flying solo, or it was originally called Never Look Back with Warner here in Canada, and I'd be giving that up to become, for lack of a better word, a prisoner again. I had no rights. I was just a possession, and I I just turned it down, and that's when the other new Headpins came to be, and it's whatever. I'm just a piece in the clog, and letting go, letting go, letting go. So it's just a mantra of mine when I start getting caught up in shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It's like you're where you're supposed to be.
I
You're
agree.
where you are, and try to keep your head out of the hole or from jumping down the rabbit hole too often, and just just appreciate, just learn to appreciate the good things and try to stay positive and move forward, hopefully.
Right. Well said, Darby. And I agree with you. I really come to a point as I get older where it's that learning to trust the process and learning that wherever I am in this moment right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and to just be and be okay. Just be and be okay,
Yeah.
with regarding whatever's going on. And what would you tell your 18-year-old self if you could go back? What advice would you give 18-year-old Darby?
Oh, you know what? I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through all those things. And
Right.
so I think I would have worked harder at learning how to play an instrument. I could play a little guitar, a little piano, or keyboards, but never good enough to take it on stage. And I
Right.
always thought, well, my voice is good enough. And in these days, when you look at the characters like the guys from Took, who can play everything and extremely well, it's like, wow, okay, I missed out on that. I think I would have focused a little bit more on my writing. Writing is like pulling teeth for me, even though I can sit down and write a paragraph or a page, and I can edit and I can go back. Writing lyrics is one of the hardest things I think I've done in my life, and it's 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 pulling heartstrings. Sometimes I get too personal, too deep, and I scrap it all. And but sometimes I'm really happy with some of the lyrics that I've written in the past, and especially some of the lyrics for the Flying Solo record that say a whole lot about certain things that are private, and yet I give little bits and pieces of the inside story. But I think
Right.
that perhaps I'd have maybe taken some classes and learned how to get past that. The fear of failure, I think, is the biggest part of writing, is putting something out and having it fail.
Well, right,
So
because it's so personal. I mean, writing is, I had a music teacher once that said, singing on stage is equivalent to standing there with your pants down. And And I think to some degree writing is too, because it's, it's your insides coming out.
Yes.
And so, yeah, writing, I would imagine, can be a fairly stressful thing, especially when you've now reached this success and you know that people are going to be listening. It's not a case of, oh, people may or may not see it. It's coming from you. So people are going to, that would be a lot of pressure.
And also, as you say, reaching the amount of success, whatever that may be, and the age. Oh darn! I lost my train of thought. Um, Gone. Sorry.
It's all good.
Next question.
So, no, it's all good. It's all, you know what? If it's anything there like it is here, it's 40 degrees in my space right now. So it's, the brain's melting a little bit. So one other question I had for you. So you've been married for 34 years?
37 in August. 37 next week. 37 years. Yeah.
That's amazing, especially in rock and roll bizarro land. That's an accomplishment. And you have a couple of two sons, is that right?
Two sons. Yeah, both university graduates and working in their field. I'm so happy about that, because that means they can support their mom and dads who were bum musicians and music people who have no retirement fund. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. Yay, boys, way to go.
You're a proud mama bear, hey? What do you hope that you've taught your children? What value or lesson do you hope that you've taught them well?
Well, my oldest son moved away 8 years ago now. And a few years ago, when I left the Headpins and we were going through the real stress part of that, dealing with shit nobody should have to deal with. But
right. He
said, Mom, there's no first prize for trying. And I was like, wow, okay, wow.
Wise kid.
Well, yeah. And all this time I'm thinking, well, I'm proving to them that I'm not giving up. I'm trying. I'm digging deep. But since then, I've spent a fair amount of time crashing at his place in Vancouver while we're rehearsing and
right.
whatever other reasons. And he has seen just how much fight it's taken to keep this going and to stay the path. And I think finally now, he's 28 this year, he's realizing, way to go, Mom and Dad, way to go. It's a tough racket. Any racket's a tough racket. There's politics in any racket. So, you either go with the flow, and I'm sorry, my dog's having conniptions over here. He's choking. That's that collapsed larynx or trachea. Poor guy.
I thought maybe somebody was touching his hair.
And then my youngest has went through university through COVID. So he's actually moved home and spent his last year and a half graduating here. And he's been working in his field for the last 4 years as well. And he has seen the struggle firsthand, and the amount of fight that it takes and the amount of determination it takes to step forward and not give up. And so I think that it has given them a sense of what it takes in this world, because it's such a small world now. Back then, you had to go to the record store and pick up the record. It was a very different world. Now you buy it from wherever it's on sale, whether it's China or England or the States, and everything is so close at hand. And one mistake can cost you everything these days. One bad public post or whatever. So,
because it's forever, right? It's forever. I mean, nowadays, if you, one bad post or one, and it's there forever for everyone to see for generations to come. So
So hopefully they're if not proud of what my husband and I have done, they're at least aware of what it takes to succeed, if that's what you can call what we're doing.
And to rise above and do it well. to rise above and come out on the other side and to come out victorious. I think, yeah, I think that's a great lesson. And yeah, Darby, you are absolutely delightful. You are welcome to stop by here anytime.
Thank
It's
you.
it's been really, really great talking to you. And I'd like to end off with there's a phrase that kind of was popping up during when I was
Oh, okay.
and it's a phrase of yours, and you say, "Don't stop keeping on."
Yes.
And I love that.
I wrote that 27 years ago for the Never Look Back CD, and yeah, I'm not sure why that keeps doing that. I apologize, but I took flack from one interviewer once saying that, the lyrics to that are just so standard and they're so predictable, and why would you even write something like that? And I just remember thinking, wow, those lyrics are from my heart, and that was from being fired from the Headpins the first time, right? So, and I'm very proud of that song today because it speaks.
Sure.
Almost 30 years later, it's still So
I can't believe an interviewer would say something like that. Who is this? Well, have him. No, I'm kidding. That's terrible.
I don't know.
I would never. Wow.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah. What else are you going to do? I'm a lifer, and at this point in time, I just I kudos to anybody who's out there still trying to put it together for what's left of the classic rock era. I would just like to say anybody that's been in it this long deserves the opportunity to work when they can. You know what? We're all trying. We've all been here for a lifetime. Just open up the doors, everybody. Let it go, and give everybody a chance to be who they are for the next amount of time that they got left.
Right. Well said, Darby. I love it. Well said. Darby, we just can't thank you enough, not just for being here today, but, for your huge contribution to the Canadian music industry. Your songs were the soundtrack to my life, and I'm sure, countless other people. And we can't wait to see what you have coming up next, because I don't see any signs of slowing down.
Well, here's hoping, and thank you, Kelly, for having me on. Much appreciated, and all the best to you. And let's hope COVID gives us all a break here really quick.
Let's hope for that. You take care, Darby. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'm Kelly Barrett. This is Etcetera Live on the Vibe. Until we see you next week, take care and be nice to each other. Bye-bye.